For this video, just really quickly wanted to run over Hosea 2 because I thought it was pretty cool and I wanted to read it with Elena, so I'm going to read it and we're going to quickly discuss it, and it's going to hopefully be just a quick video. So, starting in verse 1, Say ye unto your brethren, Ami, and to your sisters, Ruama, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. For their mother hath played the harlot, she that conceived them hath done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, mine oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up thy way with thorns, and make a wall, that she shall not find her paths. And she shall follow after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them. And she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then shall she say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now. For she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. Therefore will I return and take away my corn in the time thereof, and my wine in the season thereof, and will recover my wool and my flax given to cover her nakedness. And now will I discover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and none shall deliver her out of mine hand. I will also cause all her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. And I will destroy her vines and her fig trees, whereof she hath said, These are my rewards that my lovers have given me, and I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. And I will visit upon her the days of Baalim, where she burned incense to them, and she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and she went after her lovers and forgat me, saith the Lord. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, and bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfortably unto her. And I will give her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Acre for a door of hope, and she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, and as in the days when she came up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi. This means husband. So she shall call me husband, and shall no more call me Baali. For I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground, and I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I will betroth thee unto me forever, yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, saith the Lord, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel, or Yisrael. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy, and I will say to them which were not my people, Thou art my people, and they shall say, Thou art my God. So there's many things I noticed in here, but the first half of it talks about the husband and wife and the woman that is basically going off to follow after other lovers, of which they point out Baal. So we have, where does it say Ishi? Yeah, and in that day, say, Lord, call me. Let's go over here. Not phrase. I always hit the wrong button when I'm in the computer. All right, or on the computer. So, husband, in this particular context, is what would be looking for, because she's not just calling him man, she's calling him here husband. And then We know this because later on it talks about betrothal. We're talking about him marrying them again in the covenant when he takes Israel back. And then, of course, the other one I thought was interesting because it says Baali. And I think about Baal, and I've been studying a lot about all the different instances he's shown up. But I thought it very interesting that in this particular instance, it says a deity in the northern kingdom, variation of the name Baal. But what it says is that the meaning of it is my Lord. And I'm like, It was saying that it would take the names, for I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. I just thought that was interesting. My Lord is what it means, and it says he'll take away the Lord, or the different names. So the Lord, and we've been taking away some of these things lately and trying to replace them with the correct names. It's interesting.
Yeah, Bruce on Edited just did videos on this this past week.
Yeah. But I thought also what was interesting is, what did it say? It took, I will also cause all her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. He takes away the Sabbaths and the feast days from the woman, the church, I don't know exactly. I just thought it was interesting that it points that out. For this woman, this stuff is removed from her. And then I think about this also. As in the days of her youth, as in the days of when she came up out of the land of Egypt. The day of her youth was after the destruction of Egypt. And if you know anything about mud floods, after each of the destructions, we see what? We see the haughty women being brought down to basically mud. But he brings them out into the wilderness. But what were they doing in the wilderness? Were they not still looking back? In the first wilderness, at least with Moses, which is what we see happening here right now with all these holidays. Everybody who knows the truth, who hears it, the veil has been lifted. Many people are starting to realize at the very least, that the Christmas tree is pagan. But what are we holding on to? We're still looking back at Egypt. People cannot let go of this. It feels so like home to them, and they can remember all these beautiful memories, or at least all these feelings. I never had really good memories. I thought it was always horrible. I mean, it was okay, but once you got old enough to realize where the stress was, it was whatever. But there was a lot of stress, and of course materialism involved. But with all that, and with everybody starting to kind of learn the truth, even those who are learning the truth are still looking back at Egypt and wishing and moaning and groaning and hoping for their ability to keep the ways they worshipped in Egypt.
Even got, recently I've seen a lot of people who've been Torah observant for some time saying that it's okay to do both of the feast and Christmas and Easter too. Like, we can do them all.
But
I don't think that's okay either. I don't.
No. We see here, all these things were taken from her because she went after the ways of others. We can't be mixing. That's the same thing as mixing wool and linen. That's what that actually meant. You can't mix both the sinful nature and the righteous nature. You can't mix Satan's table. You can't say that's what bothers me, and I hate saying it because I know it's gonna make people angry, but every time I hear this whole we're removing the Christmas tree, and I'm like, but you're still sitting at Satan's table. You basically were like, you know what? I'm gonna take off all these symbolisms, but I'm gonna still go eat at his table and just say, I disagree with you, but I'm gonna eat at your table. On top of them eating at that table, they are not attending God's feasts. It means almost nothing in my mind, and I hate to be rude about it, but it means almost nothing to me when you remove the Christmas tree and you're still oh, but I love this holiday, so we're gonna keep celebrating it. For what reason? Why? What does it have to do with Christ? You can't make it about Christ. That's no different than worshiping the bull, but worshiping, saying Yahweh's name while worshiping said bull. Like, you can't. It's the ways they worshipped. It says, do not worship in the ways of the heathens. These are their ways. These are their days. You can't go to both Satan's table. You have one master, not two. You can only serve one.
And I've heard some people say, like, well, we gave up Christmas, but we're still going to go to family's house on that day. And we are not going to have a Christmas tree. We took out all of the idols. We're not doing anything like that, but we don't think that we have to, like, stay home and avoid everybody on that day. And I'm like, okay, well, I think that might be okay, like, as you're coming out of it. But at some point, I think you have to give that up too, because it's just like, if you're being real with yourself, are you really removing all those idols? Are you still going to family's house where they have abominations on the table and they still have a Christmas tree up? They still have a wreath on the door when you walk through, you know?
Yeah.
And if you are, then you're still partaking. You can avoid eating the swine. You can avoid,
This is food sacrificed to idols too, because you're cooking your food on the day, your feast food on the day that Satan is cooking his. That is food sacrificed on the day belonging to Satan. Is that not food sacrificed to idols?
If you're cooking food that day and you're just eating that day, it's one thing. But if you're making a whole meal,
yeah, that's what I mean, like the Christmas feast.
The idea of it is like, if you were completely rooted in all the feasts and doing the Sabbaths and the new moons, and you just were good in them, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you happened to have a Christmas off and you felt led to go to your family member's house. And you ain't been there in some years or something, but you're solid in the feast at that point. Maybe. But I think I would still be very careful on how you approach that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man.
I mean, if they were gonna have all that stuff up, I wouldn't be showing up. That's just me, though. If they weren't doing any of that stuff and nobody was doing any of that stuff, sure, I'd hang out with you on that day. If that stuff's gonna be up, I don't think I can participate, because that's like Paul when he was talking about the meat. Like, he was talking about, I can't eat at this place if someone thinks that I'm gonna eat the food that's sacrificed to idols. Then I'd rather not eat there at all than someone think that I'm gonna be doing that, because if I show up there at a place that makes food sacrificed to idols and someone walks by and sees me eating at this restaurant, even if I'm not eating that meat, then they think that I am, then that puts a stumbling block in front of their feet and they think it's okay. If I go and do these things and someone else, a brother, sees me doing these things, then they assume that I'm doing it because it's okay to do it, and they themselves go and do it. That's a stumbling block. I'd rather not put a stumbling block in front of my brother and make them think that it's okay to worship on these days with all those idols present. I don't know. That's just me. I might be a little harsh, but that's just me. But even then, for those who know it's pagan, the other thing that...
really hard time with it. I need to be really rooted, and there'd have to be a reason I was led there.
Yeah, there'd have to be. I feel like for people who are recognizing and they're hearing the Spirit tell them these things, I honestly have to ask, like, why are you holding on to it so hard? Like, what is it that makes you want to continue celebrating it? Is it because you're doing it for Christ? Because he asked you to? Because I hear that a lot, but I'm like, is it that you're doing it for him? Or is it that you're doing it because you don't want to let go of Egypt, because you miss it and want it, and it has actually nothing to do with him, but you're just, those memories and everything are strong for you, so you want to do it? But that doesn't make it about Christ. That makes it about what you want and what your feelings are saying, when in reality we should be looking at what he wants, right?
People are recognizing just how lonely it gets, because it is a wilderness journey. You are going to be alone. You're going to be hated by your family, your friends, by everything, and that's the hardest part for people to do.
It's a lot easier to fit in and please other people than to stand out and speak truth. regardless of what consequence might come. That's what our Messiah did. He didn't care what the consequence of his truth was going to be. He went out and was persecuted for it and told us that we also would be persecuted. So go out and live that difficult persecuted life, because the road is very narrow and few are going to go that way. Yes, it's hard. Actually, it's not so much hard if you like ignore the rest of the world like I do and being like introvert, but if you actually go out in the world, that's when it gets hard. But the feast stuff aren't hard. That's not what's hard about it. What's hard about it is that you're going to be persecuted if you don't go along with the holidays that everybody else wants to go along with.
Everybody hated me already anyways. Made it a lot easier.
Right? That's a good point. But
really crazy.
I just thought Hosea 2 was pretty cool, because this looks like the woman in the wilderness to me, and it made so much sense. And I'm like, oh, the woman in the wilderness, the church who turned from law, right? And went after others, seeks after other lovers, and then comes back. One last thing I wanted to show you. So I think this very last verse is interesting to me, and I want to put this out there because I hate to break it to everybody that there is always hope for all. I hate the way that everybody looks at the world and looks at hell and looks at the end times and the quote-unquote end of the world where there's no such thing, and they're like, oh, so many people are going to die and go to hell and be eternally brutalized. Okay. So many different lessons to fix that huge error, but what I want to point out here in Hosea, and I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them, which were not my people, thou art my people, and they shall say, thou art my God. What is the new covenant? When all shall know God, and none will need to teach his neighbor, because they all know him, right? There's a reason there's hope, and it will take so many different videos to explain why this makes sense. But there's hope for everybody. There is no such thing as the end of the world, and that will take a whole nother, so much more time, but not happening right now. But all that have not obtained mercy, all them which were not my people, will say, thou art my God. That is scripture. That's truth. And it makes sense if you understand the full story. But again, so many things we can't touch on here. But I don't know. You have anything else to say before I shut you down, girl?
No, I was just gonna say real quick, I feel like instead of it being the end of the world, we have been shown how if we do things our own way instead of doing things his way, how bad they can get. And I think that this is like the more extreme of it, with just all the technologies and medical things and all the
As in the days of Noah.
Yep, I think we've screwed ourselves up so bad that we have shortened our lives and made them miserable, really. And we have all these conveniences and these things we think we love, but I think we had to go this far off, that way we can come back to his ways, and then he could show us just how good we actually had it. Because a lot of people think end of the world, but that's not it. And we've covered it in one of our videos.
Yeah, a little bit. There's so much more to it that we can't touch on, though.
It's basically like we're going to be going back to the days of Noah, and in the days of Noah, how long did Noah live? How long did his sons live? Things like that. And it's the healing and going back to his ways.
So just to like reiterate my point, at the very least, let me add at least a couple verses to that thought, so at least you know I'm not crazy. He abides forever, Psalm 104:5. He established the earth upon its foundations so that it will not totter forever and ever. Ecclesiastes 1:4. A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. Isaiah 65:17, for behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. That's a very interesting one when you think about the different generations, quote unquote. 2 Peter 3:10, but the day of the Lord will come like a thief, in which the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed with intensity, and the earth and its works will be burned up. So burned up, but earth remains forever. Right? That's confusing, but yes, the earth does indeed remain forever. The earth is our inheritance, but it is a renewed heavens, which the heavens is actually the sky where the birds fly. If you look at Genesis, the heavens is where the birds fly. The heavens is what's being polluted like crazy right now by all the spray. They're going to create a new heavens and a new earth. They're going to renew it. They're going to clean it for us. Or he's going to clean it for us.
And that's the whole burnt up fire refinement. We have all of those too.
Yes. But I think that about sums it up, and I'm sure we'll get to some of those eventually now that we're recording again after our long break.